ॐ निरञ्जनं नित्यमनन्तरूपम् भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारम् परमेशमीड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामः.
Welcome to our Sunday session, morning session on guided meditation. Over the last few weeks, we have been behind the mantras, the powers through which there is an inner healing that takes place, wherein the source of that healing power is our own higher spiritual self or the Atman. Mantras enable us, the spiritual energy can flow from that higher plane of consciousness, which is at our Atman nature, through the various layers of our personality, right up to the lowest, grossest physical body, unobstructed by any impediments. Then that energy has got a beautiful healing, soothing, calming, uplifting, elevating, illuminating impact on the whole human personality. You'll feel it in your physical body, there's inner peace and stability and balance and clarity in your thinking. And you'll feel it even at a deeper level of your being, where you are sort of just happy and calm and abiding in your own self, contented, without feeling the need to go out and engaging in the external world through the sense from outside to say. And ultimately, when one abides in one's own self, in this Atman nature, therein they experience that infinite existence, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, purity, beauty, freedom, illumination, which is the very basic fundamental nature of the Atman or our higher spiritual self. So the saints and sages in all times and ages, individuals, to come forward and experiment or walk in that path and verify it for themselves, not just believe, but to verify it for themselves that such a state of experience is possible. And that is the ultimate abiding nature of man. That being immortal, immortal means it was never born in time and space, and therefore it will never die. And if one identifies this Atman, is called Amritasya Setu. Setu means the bridge. A bridge is across a river or something where you want, which facilitates one to travel without much difficulty, without swimming or without going over the body, walk across the bridge or drive across the bridge, but it facilitates one to go from one side to the other. And what is on the other side here? Why should I aspire to leave this and go to the other side? Well, the other side is our true home. That's where we have come from. This is a foreign land. We are here travelers for a while. In this land, we have built a house, which is this body, and we have got friends and relatives whom we associate with. But our true home is suffering in here. When we are happy, wanting to return home, then the means that will facilitate us to return to our true home is that bridge. We must know that the other bank is there, that the bridge is there, but one has to walk over the bridge and go and be at home at peace, so to say. So that Atman, which all the saints and sages and prophets, all of this is a very low level of existence. It's transitory. We are born, we grow older, at some point we leave this body and go. No matter how much a big deal we make of this life and things around us, everyone knows that. Sometimes we don't want to acknowledge that, and we want to cling to this at all costs. But in all cases, this great fact of life that accompanies every birth, which is death, comes to all of us in one form or other. Rather than hiding and running away from him, we should learn how to confront it and transcend it. And the means to do that, to conquer all fear of death, all fear of loss and transience in this world, is to go on that firm foundation of our Atman nature. More in this world and come many times, others will wisen up very quickly and say, we've understood the transient, temporary nature of this world. No matter how beautiful it looks, no matter how grand it looks, it is only an appearance. The reality is something else. And the reality is not out there. It's me. I am the reality. It's like looking at yourself in the mirror. The mirror might be distorted, dirty, or clean. And you might do various movements and you see your image moving around. What you're looking in the mirror is your image, no matter how different from the mirror. This world, made out of the three gunas, right from the highest planes of existence of Brahmaloka down to these lower planes, the human plane, this is the mirror in which we see the image. And the person that I'm experiencing myself now, the jiva, as an individual, identified with this body, with this mind, with this ego, is the I feel the image is changing. The reality is that how do we disconnect ourselves from this association with this image, the human personality, and connect ourselves with the reality, which is the spiritual self? What will facilitate that transcendence, so to say? How do we overcome this attachment and identification with this human personality and transcend it so that I can have the experience as the means by which we can also cross over to the other side? That means they build a bridge for us and say, walk over the bridge, but they will not carry you. You have to do the walking. So the mantras are these bridges, so to say. By practicing japa and repetition of the mantra, one's mind itself becomes transformed into the object of its meditation, or the entity or being that is represented by the energy fly. It loses its crawling caterpillar nature that simply goes around feeding on the leaves of a plant, and now it looks beautiful, it flies, it enjoys the freedom of space, it can fly to flowers and drink beautiful nectar everywhere. Likewise, the jiva that crawls on this human plane, trapped in this body and functioning through these five sense organs, and karma indriyas, the organs of action, and five sense organs by which it perceives the world. This is really an entrapment in there. Very much limited experience we have. A little bandwidth through which we can see the visual spectrum through the eye. A little bandwidth which we can hear through the ears. Something through the X-ray and the microwaves and this and that. But the whole existence there. And not having a different experience, we think this is it and I should remain here and enjoy here, and this is the highest state of existence and I should remain here. That is called ignorance. Saints and sages transcend this sense-bound world into another realm which is called the super-sensuous experience, beyond the senses. And so suddenly they feel that they can function and perceive and experience without these physical senses, which is the final barrier that we transcend. And suddenly the balloon bursts, or the bubble bursts. The little bit of air that was in the soap bubble that was floating around, thinking this is my entity, it bursts, and what happens? It becomes part with that infinite space. And suddenly say, I am that infinite, without any boundary, without any conditions, without any relativity in that absolute being. That is the fundamental reality of each and every one of us. We are all really the ocean. No matter how much we identify ourselves with a particular wave, and the wave is sweeping on the surface as a small bit of water, so to say, always changing, the reality is one day the wave will subside into the ocean and suddenly discover that it is that infinite ocean, profoundly deep, infinitely vast. How do we expedite that process of recovering our true nature, so to say? And the saints and sages come and say, there are. Manana means constantly repeating it, not only as a thought, but dwelling on the meaning of it also. That means you try to resonate with with the energy that is contained in it. There's a meaning in a word. For example, somebody says a particular word in a foreign language. I just hear the sound. I say, what is it? What does it mean? That means I'm just hearing the noise or sound. I have no clue what is meant by it. And then somebody might, through the vehicle of the word. If the meaning doesn't come, then I just get the sound only, which is a meaningless, useless thing to me. Likewise, when the spiritual teacher gives this mantra to the disciple hears certain words in there, but he might not immediately grasp the meaning of it, what is being symbolized by it, because his capacity to the process through which we purify the mind and thus develop that capacity to have that experience of that entity or that being that is being, which is the counterpart of the meaning part of it, of the mantra, so to say. So the teacher gives a very simple instruction. You will see, in spite of all the scriptures and the philosophy, the Vedanta, the Sankhya philosophy, and all the intellectual understanding of Atman, Brahman, bondage, liberation, the topics that are there in scriptural texts, when he loses all charm for this world, understanding this is all not so great compared to the reality that's being taught in the scriptures, that is so much profounder and better, and I want to have that. I'm not going to settle for this temporary world, no matter how beautiful it is. But one thing is sure, it will be taken away from me. Why should I cling to something that's not going to be mine? I would rather get something that will be mine for good. And so he approaches a spiritual teacher or prays to the divine, please take me out of this miserable, ignorant state of suffering and all that, and lead me to that true abode. Asato ma sadhanal abode of absolute existence. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Here everything is ignorance. Little bit of knowledge we have, that's an illusion of knowledge also. This is not the ultimate knowledge. Take me to the other side of Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, the light of spiritual illumination. That is what I would like to have. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. That prayer suddenly, small prayer suddenly becomes very, very profound. Here I see death everywhere, change everywhere. Every moment things are created, they stay for a while, and then they disappear. Nothing is permanent here. I would like to go to an abode where it is beyond change. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. He just doesn't recite it from the throat and goes to the temple and says something and goes away. No. And when that happens, then the divine on the other side responds. And the response is that he pulls you, he provides you the spiritual sustenance now. If the child is crying and the mother hears the cry and says, okay, I'm going to feed you, the spiritual teacher. The word guru in Sanskrit means, gu means darkness, ru means to remove. That power, that energy, that source which removes the darkness of ignorance by bringing. It means absence of light. So when light comes, then darkness, the two cannot coexist, so to say. And darkness automatically recedes away and disappears. Just like at night, it's dark. In the morning, the sun rises, the darkness disappears, everything is revealed. Likewise, there is spiritual ignorance. We hear about all these entities within us, but we really don't understand them. We don't have an being, our mind, and we will have that experience. The medium through which that spiritual energy or grace we call comes from the higher source is called the spiritual teacher. The human teacher is the instrument, the vehicle through which that message is delivered. But the real energy comes through the mantra. That's why the spiritual teacher gives that spiritual mantra and also gives the instructions as to how that mantra has to be used in the process of japa and meditation. So the instructions generally are very serious, simple. Very few teachers will ask you to read whole of the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishad and everything, then come to us. They say that's not necessary. Really about diseases and health and medicines, how to cure, has that simple basic faith. Doc, these are my problems. Tells the symptoms. And the doctor diagnoses the cause of that disease. And with his knowledge, he also identifies the right medicine and how it's to be taken. And he gives writes a prescription, take this medicine for 5 days, 3 times a day, and if you do that, the disease will go away. A person who has that simple faith in the doctor, this is an important characteristic of a spiritual seeker. Shraddha, it's called, in simple basic faith. If he has that faith in the doctor, he just goes and takes the medicine and gets himself cured. He doesn't know anything about the nature of the disease, what bacteria, or the physical composition of the chemical composition of the medicine, and how that medicine acts and kills the bacteria or virus or something. He just believes that. But what he does, he takes the medicine as per the instruction of the doctor. And the medicine, as it enters the body, does its work. Now, in a similar way, when one is suffering from this disease of this bondage of this world, and repeatedly coming into this world and suffering here, and he goes to a doctor, can you please cure me from this? And the doctor also says, yes, I can give you the medicine, and all you have to do is take that medicine in the prescribed way. The medicine will have its own effect on you. So a person who has this shraddha, that faith in the doctor, a spiritual doctor, so to say now, will simply follow the instructions. He doesn't go around, can you explain to me how it all works, where is the code and all that. Then we get into the intellectual gymnastics. Yes, a spiritual teacher can explain you if the student has the capacity to understand also. But as class 1 student should not go to a university professor and say, can you please explain to me Einstein's theory of relativity. It's not that the teacher cannot explain, but does the student have the capacity to understand or not? The teacher, in the spiritual field, the teacher says, have that faith. This is called Shraddha. We find that sometimes this Shraddha is very much lacking. Just because somebody has got some degrees and some knowledge, they get a little cocky. This ego says, I must understand everything, and then I will practice. They don't have that perseverance and patience also to, just like a patient says, I have taken 2 pills and I don't feel this medicine is working. I better go and find another doctor or take another medicine. And before he knows, he takes something else, mix a combination of all those things and gets himself all entangled and worse off. In the meantime, the disease has. As we see, many devotees or seekers are there. They lack this. They go to a spiritual teacher and beseech, can you please bless me with this mantra. The teacher, out of his infinite grace, says yes, and he gives that. The guy comes and does a little bit of japa and meditation for some time, and then after some time, you see, it has lost its tempo. Oh, he misses in the morning, in the evening, and here and there, whenever he has got a little bit of time. And then he suddenly expects that one fine day he will have some wonderful spiritual illumination. It is like a person who takes his medicine randomly. Does he get cured? No, the whole process of curing is all not working in the proper way. So this Shraddha is very, very important, and we find many times among many people, they lack this. And those who lack, well, who can cure them? If you can give the medicine to somebody, but if you can't, you can take the horse to the river, but you can't make the horse drink. Intensify our faith in spiritual teachings and increase our zeal to practice the spiritual disciplines, then it's all very good. But if too much intellectual gymnastics confounds and confuses and bamboozles the mind, so to say, that doubts begin to enter. And then you say, oh, will it work or not? I've tried a little bit, maybe it's not working. As soon as the doubt enters, then the boat will sink into the ocean, so to say. So it's very, very important to take a disposition of the mind to be open to receive that energy. And it's not only simply having the simple faith, it is to be verified through. As you take the medicine, after a few days, you feel slightly better. But one must not stop there. The doctor says you must complete the whole dose. So, likewise, we persist in our spiritual discipline, and we will. State of physical health is improving as we take the medicine capsules. Here you will feel your mental health state is improving. You feel calmer and better. And, the inner joy that was being obstructed is now shining more. You feel more content. There's a lot more clarity in your thinking. There's something from within you are beginning to feel, and you say, well, something is happening and I must persist in that. Should not settle for a little bit of temporary nice feeling there. The goal is to really to take you from this side of the river to the other side. Patience, perseverance. And so this mantra then takes the place. So this mantra, even though what we hear at the time of receiving this diksha, the process through which this spiritual energy is transmitted from the spiritual source or through this the channel to the recipient is called diksha or initiation. What is it like? Well, let me give an example. If somebody says a piece of wood has got fire in it, suppose somebody has never seen fire or never have to bring it out. And how do you bring it out? Well, a couple of methods are there. One, you can take two pieces and keep on rubbing with a lot of intensity for a long time, and you'll see a spark will come out and the fire will ignite. Or there's another method. Take your dry piece of timber or wood to a burning fire and touch it, and you'll find that the flame catches from that burning fire to this dry piece. It has to be dry. If you take a wet piece of wood into a fire, you'll get a lot of smoke, that's all. So some spiritual teachers, like somebody down the line, had taken spiritual disciplines and awakened that spiritual knowledge in themselves. In them, the fire is blazing, so to say. But they are gracious to transmit that fire of spiritual knowledge, so to say, to their disciples. And those disciples nurture it. Spiritual energy is transmitted from one generation to the other. It's called a guru parampara. And one becomes very fortunate when one comes in contact with such a flow of pure spiritual energy. Then one doesn't have to work so hard on their own, lighting your own fire, so to say. Anyway, when that fire is ignited, it comes in a very small little flame. One has to nurture that and let that wood really capture that fire and burn, so to say, brightly. Then one is benefited by the heat and the light that emanates from that piece of wood, so to say. Likewise, within us, but he says this is just a little spark, so to say. I initiate it, I'm starting it, okay, just a little spark. You have to nurture it and make it grow into a powerful fire that will display. Has that faith in the teacher, and he sets on the journey. And the method is repeat this mantra, resonate your whole mind in, fill your mental space with the vibration of the energy that is contained in that mantra. So mantra, the sound with content is there, so to say, and we have to tune ourselves with that energy to feel that energy and experience it, so to say. And how does that happen? Not with one repetition, unless one is a very, very highly qualified spiritual seeker who has done tremendous amount of sadhana in previous lifetime, and the guru. Hear of such cases in history. But for the vast majority, they have to work a little bit harder. Anyway, the medicine has been given, and one has to have that faith, that patience, and perseverance to really put into practice. Remember, you don't need to know the nature of the disease. Medicine, with that simple faith, with that patience, with that perseverance, and verify for yourself that the medicine works, so to say. So, when Swami Vivekananda composed the hymn of Sri Ramakrishna, he gives a beautiful verse in there where he describes him as Bhavaroga Vaidhyam. Vaidhyam being embodied in and dying and reincarnating and coming back and forth. This is not the highest state of being. It's actually a disease. We lose our ease when we lose our ease, our healthy state of being, whether it's a physical being, then we call a disease. When we lose that beautiful state of mind into something, there's a mental disease. Any spiritual disease, no matter how beautiful it looks and wonderful life's experiences are. So, Sri Ramakrishna, or incarnation of God, is classified as has been described as Bhavarogya Vaidhyam, the doctor who cures us from this disease of worldliness or worldly existence, so to say. And how does he do? Well, he comes, he lives this beautiful life, shows that what is possible in a human being. He lives in the midst of us, but he shows that it's not only a physical existence. In this body, this highest experience of Atman or Brahman can be experienced. By saying, grow as a child, go to school, get a job, have children, have all those responsibilities and duties, and then become old and then die. Well, animals also do that in one way or the other. There's much more that's possible in a human being. A human being is a very blessed, a very high level of creation of God, wherein it is potential for him to transcend his human nature and access the spiritual nature. That is the glory of a human being. God made man in his own image. He can go to the source. That is, and if we don't walk that path, then we have not done justice to the potential that is in a human being. We have just lived a animal life, so to say. Pashubhi samana. Pashu means an animal. We just uh, live an animal life, eating, drinking, procreating, and dying, basically. So, it's the scriptures, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, or the Bible, or Bhagavad Gita, and then they also start a tradition through which their spiritual energy, which they harness through their own spiritual sadhana, is transmitted down through various generations in an organized way, so that many people, thousands down the line over the years, can also benefit from that tremendous amount of spiritual energy that is generated and harnessed and preserved in a proper sanctified way. So it's not given to anyone and everyone. That is why in our Ramakrishna mission tradition, only the presidents and the vice presidents and some very senior swamis are authorized to give this mantra diksha. We, as other swamis, we will give the teachings and discussions and try to give a spiritual teacher. We will organize this diksha wherein they directly receive the pure mantras that were given by Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother Sharda Devi through the succession of gurus. That is the real seed that is prepared. What we do is we help prepare the garden. In the garden, there are so many weeds and stones and pebbles and all those things. We said, take them all out, help the student, seeker, prepare the ground. Mind is the garden in which all this lack of knowledge or ignorance or doubts and all those type of things are the obstructions. He cleans them all, makes himself ready to receive that seed, so to say. And at the right time, when the disciple is ready, the teacher will come and give that spiritual energy, plant that seed of the mantra. And therein, if the student works hard on that, nurtures that little plant that will come, or the sapling that will come, or sprout really becomes a sapling by if you give it water, air, and sunlight, and all those things. In time, it will grow into a beautiful tree. Seed, what do I do with that? And if the seed is planted, if you don't take care of it, then again, it doesn't grow into a beautiful, healthy tree. It might grow into something stunted, and you might not give you the best fruits and in that abundance. So we have a responsibility and a duty of care to nurture that spiritual. We as Swamis facilitate that process of preparing the mind, the garden of the mind, and at the right time, when you're ready, the seed comes. Sri Ramakrishna says, there's tremendous power in the seed of God's name. It destroys spiritual ignorance. One has to experiment that and try that is approaching the Atman. And one fine day, by the grace of the divine, the jiva, the ego and the bondage totally disappears. The bubble bursts. That air that was trapped inside the bubble becomes one with the infinite air of the space, so to say. So that grace comes, grace from the divine source, flows through the mantra, mananatra, elsewhere, but sometimes you will see, you can nowadays record a mantra on a sound system and it's playing. Well, is any spiritual illumination going to happen like that? Maybe that sound system might get illuminated, but not the person. No, the person has to really resonate his or her whole mind with that energy of the mantra. And then only the medicine works. That means you have to body. That's when the medicine's healing powers will take place. So, manan and tarana. Tarana means that will help you cross over from one side to the other. So this bridge is there. The mantra is that bridge which enables the disciple, the Jivatman, who is entangled in this body, mind, worldly state of being, not very high, very low compared to the other end, and it enables that Jiva to transcend and cross on the other side. That is the etymological meaning of the state of illumination through the process of contemplation. Contemplation doesn't simply mean repetition of the mantra, that's a part of it, but you begin to feel the energy that is pulsating in that mantra. It's an energy in there. and you have to tune yourself and calm yourself, and you feel the vibration of the mantra pulse, so to say, vibrating in you, and that energy is flowing through from the very depths of your being and penetrating through the various layers of your personality right up to the physical. It is where the healing power of the mantra takes place. And so there's a deity or the divine aspect of it. That mantra has got a counterpart of a divine being form. Okay, and that is called the chosen ideal, on which the form of the divinity on which the seeker meditates on. So he visualizes the divine being as a gracious form of spiritual excellences, eager to bestow all his graces to the recipient, disciple. And what he will do? He will say, everything that I have, I will give to you. You become like me. That is the highest form of grace, isn't it? I'm not giving you a few dollars. You become just like I am. So, or the template is captured in that mantra. And when the recipient or the sadhaka, the seeker, tunes himself with that energy of the mantra, it's difficult to explain that idea. It's like you try to not simply mentally repeat the mantra, but you feel that there is a pulsating energy in that mantra. And you're trying to, with the repetition of the mantra, you focus your whole mind onto that mantra. Just like the sunlight is there, removes all the distracting thoughts in the mind and focuses that whole mind on that mantra, so that the mantra occupies the total mental space. Only a single object is there, and he keeps in that loop, doesn't let any other thought intrude in that mental space, just keeps in that repetition of the mantra and tries to feel that presence in that energy of the mantra. And after some time, that capacity will develop where it's not only some words anymore. You feel there is another, you might say in a rough way, please, or in a child like telling the mother, please, can you give me? See, the moment you put it in that energy, the impact of it is different. It's not the word, but how that emotion or energy flows out of it. And people who know how to use words are good at persuading others or conveying and getting things done, because they let that energy flow from themselves in a way that the other person, it's a one-man show. You are on your own here, helpless because somebody has given the mantra and gone away. No, the deity that we are meditating all is there all the time, very much alert, awake, guiding, watching, protecting you. Have to have that type of understanding that with the seed, the deity has now taken a seat in my own heart, so to say. Now she is not out there, whichever way you want to contemplate on the divine, he or she is not out there, but within me. And as I resonate with that deity, his or her presence around in your life, you'll feel that sometimes things were about to go off the track, but somebody intervened and guided you, and you feel, wow, that was nice. I feel a sense, somebody holding my hand and taking me, navigating me through this problems and challenges, jungle of this world. That is what is called divine grace. Next week, we will go slightly deeper and try to see how that relationship with the chosen ideal and the seeker, the disciple, is strengthened through this process of meditation and japa, so that the divine presence is an important person and a living presence in our everyday life. It's not some body who lives in a temple or up in the clouds or in the shrine only. He resides in our own heart. It's a living presence. I can communicate with him. I can seek help. I can seek guidance, which says, I'm working now in greater light and less of darkness. I don't make so many mistakes. I don't stumble and fall around too much, because I have got a light that will take me through the spiritual journey. And then suddenly the ordinary human life has become transformed into a wonderful adventure. And you look forward to every day. And the value of that day is how much we engaged in that spiritual discipline, how much progress we made in that spiritual journey. That is how a spiritual teacher, a student, judges a day. Sri Ramakrishna would say, blessed, it's a bad day when we have not contemplated on the divine. It's spiritually it has not been has not been very much rewarding. It's a good day when we have really prayed practice our spiritual discipline, irrespective of the situation around the world, irrespective of the body, where the mind is, how is it transforming itself in getting purified for that beautiful moment when that spiritual illumination will take place. That happens through grace. So the grace comes with the external world and wants to turn around to seek something. That's the starting point of the grace. It intensifies. At the right time, the spiritual teacher also comes through and he gives the right mantra. And then when that even that is received, that's not the end of it. That the mind will sincerely engage in the spiritual discipline and go through that process of purification and transformation and illumination. Those are different grades, and that happens under the benign protection, guidance of the spiritual. When we seek its help, they step into our life and lead us through all these difficulties and challenges to that eternal abode. And we hope that if we can conquer this uh, repeated cycle of rebirths in this life, then the job is done. So we will discuss this a little bit deeper in the next class, but try to think on what we have discussed and try to understand the significance of the mantra and the spiritual teacher and the spiritual tradition and in what way it's to be received and how we prepare ourselves to receive it. The Holy Mother would say, somebody would say, Mother, be gracious. She says, yes, my grace is there on all, but it bounces back. That means I send it out, but you are not able to receive it. That ourselves, on our mental capacity or aptitude or disposition, so to say, to be able to soak in that energy, so to say, and make it part of ourselves. Then only it will nourish us from within. We'll try to go a little deeper into that as much as possible. Can be तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम तत्सत् श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु.